Hello there, welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
A 10-month wait just to get life-saving allergy medicine for your child. Our special report lays bare the agonising delays faced by some parents.
It's really frustrating, and what's really difficult is that I feel like we're always fighting. We've been fighting for years.
We hear the heartbreaking story of those who've lost loved ones, now campaigning for others.
It seems that families are having to battle and almost go to war. We're losing children through allergies.
Also on the programme.
3 days on from the discovery of those baby remains in Salford, police appeal for the child's mother to come forward. I'm live at the scene with the latest.
I truly believe that I'm the right guy for this job.
Manchester United's new manager, Ruben Amorim, is confident in his hiring, but will his players respond in their first match under his lead?
The Manchester girls who are turning green on the big screen.
And it's been another freezing cold day. Look at these ducks standing on top of that icy lake there. And although it is bitterly cold at the minute, there's a huge change coming this weekend. Stay tuned for the forecast coming up later.
Yes, all of that coming up. But first tonight, the agonising wait families face to access life-saving medicines for their child when they suffer an allergic reaction.
In parts of the northwest, the waiting list to see a specialist is more than 42 weeks. That's 10 months, living in fear and anxiety each time a child takes a bite of food, worried they may have a reaction and potentially struggle to breathe.
Now, without that appointment, parents can't get a prescription for adrenaline medication like EpiPens or antihistamines.
Now, families who have experienced the worst possible outcome, having lost their child to food allergies, are fighting for others, calling on the government to take action. Zoe Muldoon has this special report.
Ambulance, is the patient breathing?
Yes, he is.
The patient's awake?
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what's happened.
He's 6 months old, he's my son, and we're weaning, and I've given him some food, and he's come up in hives, and it's gone very red, and he's very bright red, and he's like rubbing himself all over.
It's every parent's worst nightmare. A baby has a severe allergic reaction to something they've eaten. The panic in the mother's voice is palpable.
Is that noise just breathing?
Yeah.
This is just one of thousands of calls to emergency services requesting urgent help for a child suffering from a reaction.
She's slumped on the floor. I'm on to 999. I'm being told how to do CPR to my daughter.
Megan Lee was just 15 when she died from a severe reaction to food from a local takeaway in Blackburn.
I think everybody says about their own children, they're absolute joy, but Megan was. Never had a moment with Megan where it wasn't filled with positivity, and she was just such a kind, gentle soul. Our life's not been the same since.
Megan was allergic to peanuts and made the takeaway aware of this when she ordered the food. She suffered irreversible brain damage after going into anaphylactic shock. Her parents, Gemma and Adam, say her death could and should have been prevented.
What we know now is that nuts was contained in every single product, even when it wasn't meant to have nuts in there through cross-contamination due to their sheer lack of hygiene, allergy management. It was absolute shambles, in all honesty.
I still struggle to understand or believe that our daughter died from eating food. You know, the three basic necessities that a human needs: oxygen, water and food. And in this country we seem to be failing.
Since Megan's death, Gemma and Adam have campaigned for better awareness of allergies, but say the risks and potentially fatal consequences still aren't taken seriously enough. Government figures show there are nearly 2 children in every classroom with a food allergy, but getting a diagnosis and treatment can be difficult.
A Freedom of Information request to NHS trusts in the North West showed that some children are waiting up to 10 months or longer to see an allergy specialist. Of those that responded to our request, the Northern Care Alliance, which runs Salford Royal and the Royal Oldham hospitals, recorded the longest wait time, that was 42 weeks. Meanwhile, the Mid Cheshire Trust, which runs Leighton Hospital in Crewe, recorded the shortest wait time, that was 12 weeks. However, some families have told us that their child's had to wait more than 18 months to see an allergy specialist.
What colour are you going to pick?
Lorna is one parent forced to play a dangerous waiting game while trying to get her son life-saving medication. Liam is allergic to dairy, eggs and peanuts. Despite pleas to their GP, it was a year before Liam was seen by a consultant.
He was diagnosed asthmatic at 2, and by the age of 2 we'd been in and out of hospital probably about 12 times. I feel like we're always fighting. We've been fighting for years.
Liam was eventually prescribed an EpiPen earlier this year. Just a few months later, it saved his life.
He had a full anaphylactic shock on a wall outside the restaurant. My husband delivered the EpiPen because you could tell by his breathing was laboured. It was our first holiday of going abroad to get that confidence to go. It's taken us almost 5 years to go, and I thought he was going to die. I didn't think we would get back on that flight.
It still seems that families are having to battle and almost go to war. We're losing children through allergies, and this is where we need the government to step in.
Both families say the need for a government champion, a voice for those living with allergies, has never been greater. Megan was a teenager with so much to live for and whose death was entirely preventable. Zoe Muldoon, ITV News.
Well, I spoke to Tanya Ednan-Laperouse, who founded the Natasha Allergy Research Foundation after her daughter died from a severe allergic reaction to sesame seeds in 2016. I began by asking her what impact having a child with allergies has.
It affects not just the person with the allergy, and it is predominantly affecting children and young adults. But it affects the whole family, it affects everybody in the family, because first of all, everything around food that affects that child, it will affect the family, but also really every part of society, everything from going to school or going on trips or going on holiday or flying in an aeroplane, all those things are impacted by worry, and there's a lot of stress associated.
What are families who come to the Natasha Foundation telling you?
Well, I think what upsets me personally is that they tell us all the things that I worried about bringing Natasha up. Now, Natasha, had she lived, she would be 23 years old now. And so it's just a travesty that we're hearing from parents who've got young children who are experiencing all the same worries and often exactly the same issues that we were experiencing 20 years ago.
Yeah, it is really terrifying. So what needs to be done?
Well, with the charity, we are campaigning for an allergy czar, which is another name for an allergy lead, to be appointed by government, and somebody who can look at all the holes and all the areas where people living with allergies struggle. And timely diagnosis would obviously be one of those things. And it's something that isn't just something nice to have, it's absolutely a necessity, and it's become actually quite critical to get somebody employed in this role.
Well, Tanya, I know that there are a lot of parents and families who'll be hugely grateful to you for your work, and that your daughter Natasha will be very proud. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Well, we put the calls for an allergy czar and the long waiting times to the Department of Health, who gave us this statement. They said, "We know allergies can have a debilitating effect and are working closely with a range of stakeholders across government, the NHS, voluntary organisations and patient representative groups to consider how allergy care and support could be improved."
It goes on, government officials have been in discussions with the Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, and ministers will carefully consider their views. Moving on to this evening's other news. A plea from police to the mother of a baby whose remains were found in a field in Salford on Wednesday.
The discovery was made near Ashtonsfield in Little Hulton by a woman out walking her dog. Tonight, Greater Manchester Police are still unclear on who the baby, known as Baby A, is, or on the circumstances that led to the infant's death.
Well, in a news conference earlier, officers made a direct appeal to Baby A's mother.
Our reporter Emma Sweeney joins us from the scene now. And Emma, what more can you tell us?
Well, Andy, in that short press briefing today, police very keen to stress the fact that this is an investigation still in its early stages. They still don't know the background or the circumstances that led to that baby being separated from its mother. That, of course, is their priority. They need to try and establish that over the next while. But they also want to ensure that the mother at the centre of this case is also safe.
We don't know the pressures the mum might have been under before she gave birth or in the times afterwards, but our priority is to find answers and to make sure the mum is safe. We know that this baby's mum is somewhere out there, potentially watching this, and we would appeal for anyone who may know the mum or had their suspicions about her pregnancy to come forward, so we can find her and speak to her. We will do anything we can to help the mum. Trained officers are ready to support her, and no matter what the circumstances are, please contact us.
So, Emma, has there been any update on the post-mortem examination?
Well, Anne, today they said that the post-mortem results would be back next week. They think maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. And the reason for that is because when it's a child at the centre of a post-mortem, there are more procedures involved and it takes longer. But we have been told in the last hour that the baby was found wrapped in a pink fabric. That is the extent of what we know so far. In the meantime, the police say that they are working with soil experts, anthropologists and archaeologists in a bid to try and understand how long the remains were at the scene here before they were established by that dog walker on Wednesday. They say they're carrying out a full search of this scene, and that will also take them into the back end of next week. Now, today the DCI in this case said that many people had been helpful. They'd come forward with information and they were following all lines of inquiry. And of course, this is a story that has led to a real outpouring of grief in this community. Even as we've been stood here this evening, many people have been coming to the scene and they continue to lay flowers. And amongst that sea of flowers, this tiny blue hooded coat, which of course is a real poignant gesture. It symbolises that this little baby was somebody. This little baby was some mother's child. A mother, of course, who the police now need to trace.
Emma Sweeney at Little Hulton in Salford. Thanks very much for that.
More of the day's news now, and police have arrested 3 people on suspicion of murder after a woman was found dead at home. The woman, who was 68, was found at her home on Hillary Drive in Crosby on Wednesday afternoon. 2 men and a woman have been arrested on suspicion of murder. They've since been bailed. Today, a post-mortem took place, but police say the results have been withheld pending further inquiries.
Merseyside Police has arrested 20 people in a week-long clampdown on knife crime. In a series of searches, weapon sweeps and checks on retailers, the force also seized 53 knives. Officers say that tackling violent crime is a year-round priority for the force, and they're appealing to the public to help them.
Train travel could be severely affected by Storm Bert this weekend, with passengers being asked to check before they travel. Trans-Pennine Express has already cancelled services running through northern Cumbria on Saturday. Strong winds of up to 40 miles an hour and heavy rain is expected to hit the region tomorrow. Network Rail say they have maintenance teams on standby at key locations along the West Coast main line.
Now, more than 300 survivors and those bereaved by the Manchester Arena bombing have been told they can't continue their legal action against MI5.
Those affected by the terror attack had claimed that failures to prevent the atrocity by the security service infringed their human rights.
But in a ruling earlier today, judges said that while they have sympathy for those involved, the cases could not proceed as they were brought too late.
Well, Tim Scott joins us in the studio now. And Tim, what's the reaction been like?
Well, today, solicitors who've represented the families and survivors said that their clients have waited patiently for 7 years for the proper legal procedures to be followed. And referring to today's judgment that it's now too late for those claims to be heard, they say that 6 of that 7-year delay is down to MI5. If you remember, during the public inquiry, the security services were found to have missed a significant opportunity to prevent the bombing. After the inquiry, MI5's Director General issued a public apology over their failure to stop the suicide bomber, Salman Abedi, who they'd received intelligence about in the run-up to the atrocity. But today, 2 judges at the Investigatory Powers Tribunal said that the claims against MI5 should have been issued more promptly than they were. They say that the bombing inquiry report was published in March 23, but the claims weren't issued until February of this year. And they say that the need to file the claims promptly wasn't given the priority that it should have been. Now, regarding the families and the survivors, they did say any reasonable person would have sympathy for them. The grief and trauma which they have suffered, particularly where young children were killed, is almost unimaginable. Nevertheless, we have reached the conclusion that in all the circumstances it would not be equitable to permit the claims to proceed. So a massive blow then to the survivors and their families, who will now be looking at what options, if any, are available to them going forward.
Tim Scott, thanks.
Abroad now, and a Merseyside man is fighting for his life in Benidorm tonight after allegedly being punched while on holiday. Andrew Fraser was in Spain to celebrate his brother's birthday with a group of friends.
He's now recovering from brain surgery, paralysed down one side and unable to speak after the single punch. Now his family's fundraising to bring him home to be cared for. Jennifer Buck has been to meet them.
Taken on the day Andrew arrived in Benidorm, but just days later he was in hospital needing life-saving surgery for a bleed on the brain after a night out with friends ended with one punch. His family are trying to make sense of what happened.
He didn't do anything at all. The bouncer has just punched Andrew to the face, and Andrew has immediately been knocked unconscious and hit his head on the floor on the way down. And so for someone to do that, like, no one deserves that, and it's caused such devastating consequences.
2 weeks ago, Andrew proposed to Carrie, his partner of 10 years, at their home in St Helens. She's now at his bedside, along with his brother.
So, Claire, you've been over in Benidorm with your sister. How's Carrie actually doing?
She's obviously, she's there. She's trying to be strong, because she has to be strong. That is why we're doing all we can to help get him home.
That help will cost between £28,000 and £30,000 for a specialist medical flight to monitor his condition throughout the journey. A GoFundMe page has already raised more than £20,000. His family want him home as soon as possible.
He's a kind man, like he's always done everything for everyone. He loves my auntie so much, and he treats her 2 kids like his own. But he's just the best. He's just a family man.
They have the full support of a charity that helps with the aftermath of one-punch attacks.
People lash out, and they never believe that the damage they're going to do by throwing that one punch. Our heads, our brains are very precious things that we need to be looking after. Everybody. You know, but that poor lad went out on his holiday, and now he's lying in bed, and we're in a hospital bed, and we're praying and hoping we can get him back.
Andrew is stepdad to 17-year-old Poppy and Harry. Along with all the family, they're hoping he's home for Christmas. Jennifer Buck, ITV News in Warrington.
Yeah, and we'll try to keep you up to date with what happens with Andrew and his family. We're moving on to sport now, and Ruben Amorim has held his first news conference as manager of Manchester United. Chris, you were there. What's your first impression?
He looks very confident, very laid back, considering this was a packed press conference. There must have been around 50 journalists, camera crews, hanging on his every word. And he charmed them all to bits. And he's trying to keep the players on side too. Remember, they are 13th in the Premier League table at the moment, with just 2 league wins from the last 2 months. But after seeing the way that the players have already started to adapt to his new playing style, he's been pretty happy with what he's seen so far.
I'm a little bit a dreamer, and I believe in myself. I also believe in the club. I think we have the same idea, the same mindset, so that can help. But I truly believe in the players also. I know that you guys don't believe a lot in these players, but I believe a lot.
And it was at that United training ground that Amorim learned to manage.
That's right, when Jose Mourinho was the United boss, he was also training Ruben Amorim on a coaching course at the training ground. But Amorim today, quick to point out that he's not the next special one. He seems a lot more humble than that, and yet not afraid to be critical of United's recruitment process. He also says the players need to improve defensively. He's put a lot of pressure on himself, saying that he needs to deliver at least one trophy in the 2.5 years that he's been given. He is United's 7th manager in the last 11 years, but he refuses to accept that this is an impossible job.
No, of course not. I believe that. Call me naive, but I truly believe that I'm the right guy in the right moment. I could be wrong, but the earth still will turn, the sun will rise again. It doesn't matter, so I'm not worried about that. I truly believe that I'm the right guy for this job.
Well, meanwhile, across Manchester, City have been dealt a blow on the financial fair play front. Premier League clubs have voted for a rule change which City had opposed. It aims to stop clubs from profiting from inflated sponsorship deals with companies linked to their owners. This is a separate battle to City's 115 charges of breaking financial rules. That case is ongoing. Manager Pep Guardiola, fresh from signing a new 2-year contract, says whatever happens with those charges, he won't quit before the end of his deal.
I said 6 months ago, 1 year ago, when every time, when all the clubs accuse us to have done something wrong. So what happened? You got relegated. I will be here. Next year we'll come up to the, I don't know, the position of the conference they're going to bring us. We're going to come up. We're going to come back to the Premier League. I knew it then and I feel it now.
Well, Pep's decision to stay at City has been welcomed by one of their biggest rivals. Liverpool boss Arne Slot says it's good for the Premier League that Guardiola will remain in it, although he does think City would also be fine without him.
They have so many quality players that if he would have made the choice to leave the club, I wouldn't have expected them to end up bottom of the league next season. So, but yeah, good for the City fans and interesting for us as managers to keep on facing one of the best managers football has ever had.
A very difficult game tonight. The atmosphere and the pitch is our first time playing on AstroTurf, so it took us a while to get going. But once we got that, I think we tried to execute what we know we're good at. Some parts we could have tidied up on, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is qualifying, and that's what we did.
Yeah, still just one defeat this season for City's women. They are looking pretty impressive.
Yeah, aren't they just?
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chris. Well, from red and blue now to pink and green. And we're not talking about a bizarre new football kit, but instead Wicked.
Yes, the wait is almost over as the film flies to the big screen from this evening with superstar Ariana Grande starring alongside Cynthia Erivo and Jeff Goldblum.
But joining them are 2 other very special stars from Manchester, selected from a drama club in Failsworth.
Our entertainment correspondent Caroline Whitmore caught up with them.
Are people born wicked? You're green. I am.
The most anticipated film of the year, and you two from Manchester are in the film. Is this right?
Yeah.
Tell me what part you played, Harry.
I play young Alphabet. I did an audition and then John must have really liked me because he didn't recall me and he just put me in the film. Karis got it straight away, but I had to go to an audition. They just said, we really like you and please can you be in the film?
And did you go, no, you're all right?
No. I said, yeah. The Munchkins are like ginger people and I'm one of the special Munchkins. I was one of the ones that could hold Ariana Grande's hand.
I don't mind telling you, the story of Wicked confuses me just a little bit. The story of what happens before and after Dorothy lands in the Wizard of Oz, is that right?
Yeah, that's true. When her mum gave birth to Alphaba, she was green and they started worrying about her. And then at the end of the film, Cynthia starts defying gravity.
Is Defying Gravity your favourite ever song?
No.
Oh. It's not.
It's in my top 3, but like if I had to choose, in my top 5.
Top 5 for Hattie, top 3 for Carys.
Yeah.
You went to the premiere, didn't you, at the beginning of the week?
It was amazing. Once I told all my friends, they were like, "Don't you mean a red carpet?" And I'm like, "No, because it's wicked, it's green." I had 2 cards to give Ariana Grande. When I made eye contact with her, she screamed my name and then everyone went silent.
It's been our little secret for a really long time, so to be able to finally share it with everyone is really, really lovely. We're very proud of it.
We tried our very best to honour this the way we felt that it really deserved, and you know, it's been a part of our hearts every step of the way, and we've just kept them in mind with us as fans.
You are both from Manchester, and you come and train here at Elm Art in Failsworth.
What I love about Elm is that everyone's really kind, and we have this rule that if you're sitting on your own, someone's got to come sit with you.
It's quite unbelievable to have such a small company in Failsworth, Manchester, you know, having these 2 children in such a huge blockbuster. It's incredible. I'm so proud of them.
I'm very proud of Carys. She's a hard-working little girl and she deserves to be in such a big production.
For a little girl, a 7-year-old from Tameside, to have landed such a huge film is amazing.
Tonight, you have got your own private screening in Ashton. You're going to see yourselves on the big screen.
Yeah.
What will your reaction be?
Probably cry. We'll probably be like...
Yeah, they'll steal the show. Yeah. It's time for the weather now. Here's Tori.
Have you burnt tea again?
I'm scraping the cooled oil into the bin, not the sink.
Can we eat outside? It's nice.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Oh, good evening. Well, after a bitterly cold day, things are really changing into the weekend. Storm Bert is approaching, and yes, it's going to be very windy, but it's going to bring a lot of rain. But the main thing is the effect that that's going to have on our temperatures. The bitterly cold air that's been sitting across the UK is being displaced by this storm system as it comes in with very strong winds, as you can see from the isobars, but temperatures up into the mid-teens by Sunday. What a difference. It's freezing cold out there at the moment, though, an early frost tonight. But as the night goes on, so we'll see the temperatures just begin to nudge up a little by the early hours of the morning as the start of this stormy weather heads in. So at first, because this rain band is coming over very cold ground and very cold air, it is going to fall as snow. There could even be some blizzards over the higher routes for a time in the early part of the morning before it all turns to rain. There is going to be such a lot of rain, 60 millimetres or more in places, and the winds gusting up to gale or even severe gale force during the course of the afternoon. The temperature's already noticeably higher, 11 to 13 Celsius, but those winds are really making driving difficult, along with so much water out on the roads. We see bands of rain come across us as we head through the remainder of the weekend. The wind stays strong throughout, so the warnings are going to stay in force throughout. Do stay tuned to the Met Office warnings that are on their website, because these are going to be updated all the time. A mild day for Sunday, but it probably won't feel it because the winds will be so strong once again, but highs of around 14 or 15 Celsius. Finally, the winds ease from Monday onwards, but then it goes and turns colder again. See you later.
It's a little bit burnt.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Great, thanks Tori, I think. Next week on the programme, we're catching up with Accrington's Jay Howard.
Yes, first she was married at first sight, now she's got a TV talk show. We'll be finding out all about Unfiltered Women, which starts here on ITV1 on Monday.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.